this or that, there is integration, as you were saying, road infrastructure, railway lines, and so on. If you leave today to go to the north of Cameroon, it will take you at least 24 hours. That is what would take you in Paris around 2 hours. From Yaounde to Marwa, around 2 hours. It will take you around 24 hours now.
Okay.
But national integration is that you have to make it easy for the people to move around the country. And then they slowly feel as one people. Slowly identify the strengths and weaknesses of each person and marry the strengths. And then you will not see the weakness, many of the weaknesses. But our national integration has been decreased, and laws and this and that.
You see, we have not gotten yet completely, just we are hovering around the ordinance, the exclusive ordinance that was written, and then the one for terrorism, getting into 1966 when the structure, and I seem to be picking along the way a certain disintegration in the southern Cameroon structure.
Yes.
Do you feel the same way?
Yes, of course. When you have to fight for posts, and then you have to fight for your own division, and you have to fight for this, where each division in the country is the same.
So these same politicians, probably, even if Ahidjo did not intend to have absolute power, they probably provided a good window for him, don't you think?
In a way, yes. They accepted his rule too easily. Without, you know, even today, if all parliamentarians of our English-speaking area move out of parliament, that is an earthquake in Cameroon.
True.
That will change the politics of Cameroon overnight.
Okay.
Yeah, if they do that. But can they do that? I don't know. They were able to do that in 1957 or whenever, when they moved out of the Nigerian Eastern House of Assembly. They all moved out and came to...
That was when some people like Muna were sanctioned, right?
Yes.
Okay, and they were protesting against...
They protested and decided now to be neutral in the politics of Nigeria. And then slowly, they now got Southern Cameroon as a quasi-region. Now they could now vote their prime minister, vote their this, vote their that and that. If you do something like that today, which is very needed, then you change the status of former Southern Cameroons in Cameroon.
Okay.
Because you can be able now, again, to discuss the modalities of existence.
So before 1972, Southern Cameroonian politicians were fighting among themselves.
Yes.
And probably the transition of that fighting, where they would have power base to fight such fights politically, would be tribal.
Yes. You know, I just talked about an earthquake. Before 1972, there was already a disintegration of Southern Cameroon politics.
Okay.
When Ahidjo succeeded to place Muna as prime minister, in spite of the rules of politics in Southern Cameroon,
he imposed a prime minister on West Cameroon.
Prime minister on West Cameroon. Even though the constitution said the president of the republic will appoint the prime minister. But that is what is in the constitution of France. But the president of the Republic of France cannot appoint the wrong prime minister. You know that. He cannot. But here, they allowed him to appoint the wrong prime minister. And that was the end of of whatever system they had. It was the end of it. Because after that, Ahidjo knew that whatever he did, he could have his way. So, but before...
so you think Ahidjo felt like his hands were tied having the West Cameroon state exist?
Yes. When the main campaign that Muna, because Muna was the main campaigner for West Cameroon for the referendum, they were telling us how much it is expensive to run two states, 2 House of Assemblies, 2 this, that. And the referendum gave 99.9999% for, but those are just figures because they represent nothing, not the people's will.
When you talk about Southern Cameroon's practices, and don't you think there is a little bit of double standard? Because if you look at the history of Southern Cameroons, we've had, coming into West Cameroon, we've had 3 prime ministers, and all of them from the same region.
You mean an appointed prime minister?
Yeah, all of them from the same region. And when we go even to governorship, we've had a lot of things that happened with I think Yaounde, when he was in the southwest, yeah. Yaounde, when he came into the southwest, there was a lot of rumors and discontent amongst the Boya people and the people of the southwest about land grabbing.
By Yaounde?
Yes, by Yaounde. And so I'm just looking at this transition as we are moving into 1972, how some of those seeds were being planted. I remember whether those were stories, I've not read it directly from anything, about campaigns when the arrogance of Endele, when he told, I think, people of the grass field how it would take them a long time to have a son like him.
Yeah. That is what
and so he encouraged the grouping for people to stand on those tribal lines, even at that time, before even they knew what was happening.
Yeah. Tribal politics is, can be said to be African, or I don't know, or politics of societies that are not yet developed, where you have little resources. What you call spoils politics, where people view politics as dividing the cake of the state, and so on. So, and that always tends to make people think self, tribe, region before they get broader in their perspective. And I think that is it. But they are bad and good politicians. Endele was in politics. He was also an early intellectual, a man who was a university doctor, among so many people who had not yet gone to school. Except when I say gone to school, I mean going far in school, except Bendong, who came later. So that must have built some arrogance in him, feeling of arrogance and of difference from other people. But he paid dearly.
Yeah, I think
because from nowhere, Foncha emerged and crushed him. And his alliance with Bile. And so I don't think that is characteristic of West Cameroon or of Southern Cameroon.
So how did, in general, how did the Southern Cameroon's political psyche embrace the almost, which we know now that it was a path that Ahijo was creating from the terrorist act that he enacted in 1962 to the what is that? The bringing together of a political party into one party system. How did the Southern Cameroon's psyche, political psyche, embrace that?
No, I've already discussed the element of fear that was created by the ordinance of 1962. Immediately after the ordinance, 4 main politicians of French-speaking region
were arrested
and sent to prison. That created an atmosphere of fear. You imagine that when they eventually threw Foncha out, they threw him out as the vice president and appointed monarch. And he just went quietly and stayed in his Bamenda residence. And nobody heard from him. fact, his house was surrounded for long because they didn't want him to hold meetings, and he accepted all that. So
That was before he became the Grand Chancellor, right?
yes, Grand Chancellor is not a post. That is window dressing. Immediately Foncha,
Why did he accept it then?
I cannot talk for Foncha. We needed strong politicians.
Okay.
We needed the Fonlong with the following. Fonlong was a bold person, but the boldness was created by his academic background and greater understanding and foresight. He saw quickly what was coming and kept criticizing it. I think that the Munas, the Frontiers, and the rest, they didn't have that. I don't think they have that power.
Our politics was just a job for them.
Yeah, it needed a strong voice to the people like Abel Mukong, Gojidinka, and so on. We're not supposed to be like voices in the forest where you shout and only hear the mountain send back your voice. Nobody is as if there's nobody around you. So we needed more people than that to talk. You see the children now, the SCNC, they are not, they are a force to be reckoned with. Because there is the visible and invisible side of the SCNC.
Is it them a force to reckon with, or is the ideology?
No, the ideas they are putting forward are very strong ideas, convincing ideas. So they are a voice to be reckoned with.
The concept of SCNC, or is it what the SCNC is today?
No. The idea that they think that what was Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon has had a raw deal, and our coming back to the Republic of Cameroon is a statement that needs re-examination. I think that
so we can still agree on that ideology and still not really agree with SCNC.
Well, I don't know what I'm not a secessionist.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe that
we should cut
Southern
back
Cameroon should break out.
Okay.
I am not, but I hold strongly
something went wrong.
To the conviction that something is wrong.
Which you've stated most of it here in this interview, yes.
I hold very strongly that something is wrong. And the earlier we arrange that, the better.
Okay.
Because slowly the idea of why not leave this entity and create an entity, rebuild our entity, will become stronger and stronger. Yeah. That is human history. Nothing in history is ever written on stone. If we were to have the opportunity of having another plebiscite, nobody will say that they want to continue with this. I think very few people would. And even without campaigning.
Yeah, if the free will is there, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about 1972. Yeah. That's 20th May 1972. That is the big elephant in the house.
Well, 20th May was the referendum now.
So that was just a fait accompli from the things you have brought from this.
It was now like crowning a process. Referendum, united.
But before we got there, even 1972, all the things that existed for federal structure were already destroyed, dismantled.
Yes. That was what you call integration now.
Okay.
Electricity, you would say that a civilized or a thinking people will not destroy your care. They will allow your care to provide electricity for some corner. But they want to bring it from a deer and it breaks down every day. You have electricity cut every day. You can't do it. So why do it? Those are the questions that are shouting at all of us. Why did you destroy your care? Why would you destroy the Cameroon Bank, which was a bank, a state bank? Why would you destroy the produce marketing board and then come back to virtually something like that? Why?
The mobile wing.
So I think that there was a lot of bad faith along the road, and a lot of bad faith that was based on an agenda, which looks in retrospect as pre-planned, even right before Fumba. In retrospect, so 72 was virtually a crowning of the whole process to give full powers now to the center. Everything that existed before was disappeared. No longer any state, no longer any house of assembly, no longer the one terror to just to validate anything before you pass and so on. The northwest and southwest are just 2/10 of the provinces of the country, and so on. There is nothing except illegally now, as I said, all Anglophone moving out and saying that what is happening. That will not be a legal move, but it will be a move that will shake the nation.
So how do you think that action of 1972 20th may impact national integration? Even if they define that to be national integration, how do you think it impacts either in the minds or in soon to happen actions of southern Cameroonians and maybe even other parts of Cameroon?
You know, national integration to the regime in place meant that everything would be done from Yaounde.
Yes.
Everything. The budget.
So they succeeded?
Yes.
Okay. In their own mechanization, they succeeded?
Yes, they succeeded. They are appointed governors now. It is governors to command, even though there were people of administration before appointed. But governors now were like the eyes and ears of the president of the republic. They are regional delegates, they are divisional delegates, they are. So all that in the deriving from the center. Every report comes to the center. The budget is divided from here. The police force posted from here. Everything posted from here. That was the essence of national integration, taking centralized decisions, not allowing anybody to
pre-plan
anything or think about anything other than the thing they have asked you to think about.
Do you think there could have been a covert studies that was done by the French and Republic of Cameroon even before 1961 to know how the Southern Cameroonians think politically for this process to be in place?
If they wanted to base their, in order to do that, you want to go through democratic processes. You want to give people free will.
Yes.
Then you start doing simulations on how X and Y would think because of X, Y, Z that we have read that he did or he did this. But when it is dictatorship, do you need to
do any? You don't need to do any stuff.
No, you give orders and ask the police to ensure that it's executed, or gendarmes or this. So gendarmes were unknown. They are a force, a French occupation force between military and civilian. Because the police are civilian, but the gendarmes is an armed force. Cannot be said to be a civilian force, no. And they are in all corners of the country. In fact, if there are not many, you will find at least 3 gendarmes in a very far nook or corner of the country.
So the Francophones succeeded in their ploy in 1972 with what is their version or definition of national integration.
Yes.
How was this for the Southern Cameroonians or the West Cameroonians? How would you think, in your intellectual way, even if we don't have any proof to the effect, did they too get their own version of integration?
No, while we were integrating nationally, Southern Cameroon was being disintegrated politically.
Extinct.
Yes, it could
Okay.
be